Leland Conway in for James T. Harris, 550 KFYI. You remember obviously the riots, the looting, everything that happened in 2020 as we come to the close of 2021. And now we have this phenomenon that is growing across America called smash and grab. This has started kind of in California, but it's happening in other states and cities where they have defunded the police or they have decriminalized a lot of criminal action. And what's interesting is if you're going to decriminalize something, which I sometimes agree with, it depends on the activity, you have to have a reform option in there. Like what they did in Europe with decriminalizing drugs is that they didn't actually decriminalize it. They said, hey, if you want an apartment, you want a little help from the state here, you want to get all this stuff, you have to get reformed. And they gave them the reform option. It was a carrot and stick. What the left is doing in America is all carrot and no stick. So Mark Brnovich wrote, and the Attorney General of Arizona wrote an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal saying, hey, whatever you're doing in California, we're not going to do it here. Welcome to the program, Mark. How are you?
Very good, Leland. Thank you for having me on this morning.
Essentially, as Attorney General, you're basically saying we're not going to put up with that in the state of Arizona. You're saying that you're going to fight against crime in that way. What is happening in California and other places that is making the smash and grab so popular?
Well, Leland, I was a gang prosecutor here in Maricopa County for years. I was a federal prosecutor, and so this is an issue that is very important to me because I think society has to do everything it can to protect all of its citizens. And so what we've seen in places like California or now in Cook County, Illinois, all these woke cities is essentially they defund or they undermine the police departments, and then they make it harder for prosecutors, or you have prosecutors elected in places like San Francisco, Cook County, who refuse to prosecute crimes. And so as a result of essentially, decriminalizing and unwilling to prosecute certain crimes, you see more of it. And so I always ask folks that, who wants to defund the police department? It's the radical left. And we know that the police officers are the number one deterrent to crime. So I think the sad irony is you get these Democrats like, in the Biden administration or people like Cartel Kelly who want to spend trillions and trillions of dollars. They want to spend money on everything, and yet they want to defund police and prosecutors. And as a result of them defunding police and prosecutors, we are seeing more crime.
Well, I guess their idea is if we just give people enough government money, they won't go and commit crimes because they'll have enough, and the government can provide that enough for them, and that the only reason they're committing crimes is because they don't have enough. That's not the case. I mean, what's happening a lot in California is because they basically raised that limit where you're not going to really get charged or harassed by the police as long as you steal less than like $950. Now you have organized crime coming in there, which isn't stealing because they don't have enough. They're just stealing because they can. It's how they make money, and they're just organizing it to do right under the limit.
Yeah, make no mistake about it. When you can go online, you can see videos that, there's a reason why, CVS's and other stores are closing in San Francisco. And even if you go to Chicago on the Magnificent Mile now, the Disney store is closing and, other stores, because what is happening is that literally as a result of organized retail theft, and that's what it is. These are organized, and they know that they're not going to be prosecuted. So they'll literally go into stores and they're stealing tens of thousands of dollars of stuff. Studies show that recently about $70 billion worth of goods were stolen. And there's been studies done that say as a result of organized retail crime that literally it's costing hundreds of thousands of jobs. It's leading to increased prices. And so, this has an effect on all of us. So, people can sit there and say, oh, my gosh, people are stealing for X, Y, or Z, or it's like Les Mis or whatever, someone is trying to get a loaf of bread. But that's not the case. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about thugs. We're talking about hoods that literally are breaking into stores, or not even breaking in sometimes, just going in, and because security's afraid to do anything, the cops won't, or the prosecutors won't prosecute them because the left won't let them. And so as a result of that, they are going in groups and, they're stealing all sorts of stuff. I mean, literally think about this, Leland. In the old days, a purse snatcher used to take a distracted shopper and a tourist maybe for a few bucks. But now you've got these organized criminals literally undermining our supply chain and, stealing entire stores worth of, Louis Vuitton purses.
Right. And that stuff is, obviously there's insurance for that, but it's going to take a long time. And like you said, it undermines the supply chain. We're talking with the Attorney General of Arizona, Mark Brnovich. You're also concerned about, as an Attorney General in a border state, you're also concerned about COVID and the open border. On one hand, we have the president lecturing people who haven't been vaccinated or aren't wearing masks or whatever as if we're second-class citizens. And on the other hand, he has the borders wide open. And you're trying to take him to task on that with several lawsuits.
Yeah, Leland, we've been on the front lines of this, and front lines and also the last line of defense when it comes to securing our border. And what the Biden administration has essentially done is decriminalized, incentivized, and monetized illegal immigration into this country. And so the cartels have essentially seized operational control. And so, you mentioned the pandemic, and there's been a lot of talk about the pandemic this last year and a half, but there is an epidemic going on right now in this country, and especially in Arizona. In places like Pima County, fentanyl, opioid overdose deaths are now the number one cause of death amongst, people under the age of 19, amongst our teenagers, more than car accidents, more than other, tragedies. And so that should be a huge red flag to everyone that drugs are pouring into our country. And I know this as a prosecutor. I see the price of fentanyl and the price of meth falling dramatically, and that's because the cartels are flooding this into our country, which means there's going to be more violence, and there's going to be more of our kids, our sons, daughters, nieces, and nephews dying as a result of the failed policies of the Biden administration and his enablers in the U.S. Senate, like Cartel Kelly, who are standing by while millions of people flood across our border, and that's going to have an impact on us in human costs and in financial cost. And so, and I think nothing maybe demonstrates that more than what's going on even with the COVID, where literally people entering this country illegally, the most difficult choice they're having to make is not whether they want the vaccine or not, because they're not being forced to. It's whether they want a single or twin bed in the hotel at Scottsdale and Shea, where, Homeland Security puts them up. So
Right.
These are, really, really terrible issues when it comes to the consequences it's having on our state.
So that's Attorney General Mark Brnovich right here on 550 KFYI.